It was a bustling day on the set of a big-budget movie, where the lights, cameras, and crew were all focused on making every scene perfect. The star-studded cast was gearing up for one of the most challenging sequences of the film, a high-stakes, action scene involving horses. Among the actors was none other than the beloved Hollywood icon, Keanu Reeves. Known for his kindness and professionalism, Keanu was the type of actor who took the time to observe everything on set, even when he wasn't the center of attention. Today, however, what he saw from the shadows made his blood run cold. Behind the scenes, away from the polished camera angles and glamorous lights, the atmosphere was far from picture perfect. A horse handler was guiding one of the majestic animals toward the stage, prepping it for its big moment in the film. The horse, a beautiful black stallion, had been working tirelessly for hours under the hot sun, its glossy coat now glistening with sweat. But the horse wasn't the problem. It was the director. The director, a well-known figure in the industry, was notorious for his fiery temper. He had a reputation for pushing his actors, crew, and animals alike to their limits. But today, he had taken things too far. As the horse hesitated for a moment, seemingly fatigued and needing a break, the director lost his patience. In a split second of rage, he snapped. His harsh voice echoed across the set as he barked at the handler to get the horse under control. But when that didn't happen fast enough for him, he took matters into his own hands. Without warning, the director stormed over to the horse and began yanking its reins with unnecessary force. The poor animal reared back, clearly distressed, but the director showed no signs of letting up. He cursed under his breath, pulling harder and harder, oblivious to the pain he was causing. His eyes were wild with frustration, treating the horse as nothing more than a tool for his shot, completely disregarding the living, breathing creature it was. His behavior quickly attracted the attention of a few crew members, who exchanged uneasy glances but said nothing. After all, this was a director who held power, and no one wanted to challenge him. No one except the man standing quietly in the background. Keanu Reeves, standing just out of sight, had witnessed the entire ordeal unfold. He had been watching, from a distance, waiting for his scene, but now his calm, steady gaze was fixed on the director's cruelty. The usually soft-spoken actor clenched his jaw, visibly disturbed by what he was seeing. He had worked with animals before and understood the importance of treating them with care and respect. What was happening before him was the opposite of that. Keanu could feel the tension building in his chest as he continued to watch, his mind racing. The director, completely unaware that he had an unexpected audience, continued his aggressive treatment of the horse, shouting at the handler to get control of this thing. The situation was escalating, and Keanu knew he couldn't stand by any longer. He glanced around, seeing the crew members exchanging uncomfortable looks, but no one seemed willing to step in. Keanu knew he had to act, but how? Should he confront the director publicly and risk a scene, or should he find a way to de-escalate the situation without causing further harm to the horse or the people on set? He weighed his options in that split second, knowing that whatever he chose would have consequences. The horse's eyes were wide with fear, its body trembling under the pressure. Time was running out, and Keanu had to make a decision. And just as Keanu took a deep breath, preparing to step forward, something unexpected happened. Something that would change the dynamic on set in an instant. But what happens next? Stay tuned for part 2 of this unbelievable story, where Keanu Reeves shows exactly why he's not only a great actor, but a true hero behind the scenes. As Keanu Reeves prepared to step forward, His mind flashed back to other sets he'd been on over the years. He remembered the times when animals had been treated with care, where the bond between the actors, the crew, and the creatures was built on trust and respect. It was something he'd always valued, a principle he carried with him throughout his career. But this director, blinded by the pressure of the production and his own ego, had clearly lost sight of that. Keanu knew this wasn't just about the horse anymore. It was about standing up for something bigger. Before Keanu could take his next step, a young woman on set, a junior assistant who had been quietly working behind the scenes, hurried over to the director. She was nervous, her hands trembling slightly as she approached him, but she couldn't stay silent anymore. "Sir," she said, her voice hesitant but determined, "I think the horse needs a break. It's been a long day, and it's showing signs of stress." The director, clearly not in the mood for advice, shot her a glare. "Do your job and stay out of this," he snapped, waving her away as though she were a mere annoyance. His attention turned back to the horse, still struggling under the weight of his temper, and the situation felt as if it were spiraling further out of control. Keanu's heart sank as he saw the young woman retreat, her efforts crushed by the director's harsh words. But that brief exchange had lit a spark in Keanu. If someone as junior as her had the courage to speak up, he knew he couldn't stand by any longer. Meanwhile, the horse's handler, a seasoned professional who had worked with animals for years, was caught in an impossible situation. He had been trying to calm the horse down, speaking softly to it, but the director's relentless behavior was only making matters worse. The handler's frustration grew. He wanted to protect the horse, but how could he go against the orders of someone as powerful as the director? As Keanu moved closer, he could see the layers of conflict unfolding on set. The director, obsessed with control and the perfection of his movie. The handler, torn between his duty to the horse and the demands of his job. The crew, helplessly watching from the sidelines, unsure of how to intervene without putting their own positions at risk. And the horse, exhausted, frightened, and on the brink of breaking down. Keanu had always been known for his quiet, thoughtful demeanor, and now he used that to his advantage. Instead of causing a scene, he approached the handler first. "Hey," Keanu said in a calm, steady voice. "Let me help with the horse for a second." The handler, grateful for the support, nodded. Keanu's reputation on set was impeccable, and the handler knew that if anyone could diffuse the situation, it would be him. Slowly, Keanu reached out, his hand gentle as he placed it on the horse's neck. The horse flinched at first, still, agitated, but Keanu's soothing presence had an immediate effect. He whispered soft words, his calm energy working like magic to ease the animal's anxiety. The director, noticing Keanu's involvement, finally turned his attention toward him. His face was flushed with frustration, but he hesitated for a moment. This was Keanu Reeves after all. Even for someone as arrogant as the director, there was an unspoken level of respect that came with Keanu's presence. "What are you doing?" the director asked, his voice still sharp, but less certain than before. Keanu didn't back down. "This horse needs a break," he said, his voice firm, but not confrontational. "You've been pushing it too hard. If we keep going like this, you're not going to get the shot you want. Let the horse rest. We'll all work better for it." The director looked like he wanted to argue, but something in Keanu's tone made him pause. The crew was watching now, the tension on set, thick enough to cut with a knife. Everyone was waiting to see how the director would react. Would he double down on his demands, or would he listen to reason? But even as this confrontation brewed, another layer of tension was building. Word of the incident had started to spread among the rest of the cast and crew. People were quietly talking behind the scenes, sharing their thoughts on the director's behavior and Keanu's quiet act of defiance. Some were relieved to see someone finally standing up to the director, while others were worried about the potential fallout. If Keanu's intervention didn't go well, there was a chance that the entire production could be thrown into chaos. As Keanu continued to stroke the horse's neck, calming it down, the director stood frozen for a moment. The silence stretched on, and it was clear that he was at a crossroads. He could either choose to listen to Keanu and acknowledge the truth, or he could dig in his heels and let his pride take over. The air on set was charged with anticipation, every eye on the director as they waited for his next move. And then, just as it seemed like the director was about to speak, something unexpected happened. A loud crash echoed across the set. Equipment had fallen over, startling everyone, including the horse. The sudden noise caused the horse to rear back again, and the situation took a dangerous turn. The stakes had just been raised, and now, more than ever, the outcome was uncertain. The horse was panicking. The director was at a breaking point, and Keanu was right in the middle of it all. What would happen next? Would the set descend into chaos? Or could Keanu find a way to resolve the situation before it was too late? Stay tuned for the climax of this story, where tensions come to a head and the true character of those involved is revealed. You won't want to miss how this unfolds. The crash sent a wave of panic across the set, and the horse, already on edge, reared back in fear. For a moment, it seemed like everything was unraveling. Crew members scrambled to steady the fallen equipment, while others backed away from the frightened animal, unsure of what to do next. The director stood frozen, his anger replaced by a look of shock. It was as though, for the first time, he realized how far things had spiraled out of control. But Keanu, remaining calm in the chaos, didn't flinch. His experience in high-pressure situations, both on and off set, kicked in. He knew that panicking now would only make things worse. Slowly, he placed both hands on the horse's side, speaking softly, his voice a steady anchor in the midst of the storm. "Easy, buddy. You're okay. We've got you," he whispered, his tone full of quiet reassurance. The horse, still trembling, began to respond to Keanu's gentle touch. Its wild eyes softened slightly as it started to calm down, its frantic movements slowing. The tension on set began to ease as people watched, holding their breath. The crew, many of whom had been unsure of how to handle the situation moments before, looked on with a mixture of awe and relief. The director, too, seemed to have been jolted out of his haze of frustration. He took a hesitant step forward, but Keanu raised a hand, signaling him to stay back. The message was clear. This wasn't about power or control anymore. It was about doing what was right, for the horse, for the crew, and for the production as a whole. After a few long minutes, the horse was finally calm again. Its breathing returned to normal, and the fear in its eyes faded. Keanu gave it one last pat on the neck, before turning to the handler. "Let's get this guy some water and a break. He's been through enough today." The handler nodded gratefully, taking the reins and leading the horse away to rest. The crew, still recovering from the near disaster, began to move again, adjusting equipment and preparing for the next scene. But the atmosphere on set had shifted. The tension that had hung in the air all day seemed to lift, replaced by a sense of quiet respect for what had just unfolded. Keanu turned to face the director, who was still standing there, his earlier bravado replaced by a look of uncertainty. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The director, clearly shaken, seemed to realize the weight of his actions. His eyes flicked to Keanu, who remained calm but firm. "We all want the best for this movie," Keanu said, his voice steady but not unkind. But pushing the people and animals on set too far isn't the way to get there. We've got to work together, with respect, if we want this to succeed. The director's face softened. He had been in the industry long enough to know when he was wrong, and Keanu's words, though simple, cut through his frustration. He nodded slowly, the anger in his eyes giving way to something more reflective. "You're right," he admitted, his voice quiet. "I lost control back there. I didn't mean for things to get this bad." Keanu gave a small nod, accepting the apology without making a big show of it. There was no need for a confrontation or a dramatic speech. The point had been made, and the message was clear. Respect and collaboration were what made a set function, not anger or aggression. As the director walked away, clearly reflecting on the day's events, Keanu watched him go before turning back to the crew. Slowly, the energy on set returned to normal. But there was a newfound sense of unity among the cast and crew. People whispered about what had just happened, sharing their admiration for Keanu's calm leadership. It wasn't just about what he had done for the horse. It was about the way he had handled the entire situation, quietly standing up for what was right without needing to raise his voice or cause a scene. The rest of the day went smoothly. The horse was given the rest it needed, and the cast and crew were able to continue filming without any further issues. The mood on set had shifted, and even the director seemed more mindful of how he interacted with everyone around him. The crew felt more connected, more aware of each other's needs. And it all stemmed from that one moment when someone had decided to speak up for those who couldn't. As Keanu wrapped up his scenes for the day, he took one last glance around the set. The atmosphere felt lighter now, more focused, and he couldn't help but feel a quiet sense of satisfaction. It wasn't often that moments like this happened on set, but when they did, they left a lasting impact. And that's what made Keanu Reeves so beloved, not just his acting, but the way he carried himself behind the scenes. His kindness, his calm demeanor, and his ability to stand up for what was right without making a spectacle of it. In the end, it wasn't about being a hero. It was about being human. The day's events were a reminder to everyone on set that, no matter how high the stakes might seem, there's always room for compassion, understanding, and respect. And sometimes, that's what makes all the difference. This story might have started with a moment of mistreatment, but it ended with a lesson in empathy. Something as simple as speaking up, as showing kindness to an animal or a colleague, can change the course of an entire day, and sometimes it can even change people's perspectives for the better. In the end, it wasn't just about the horse. It was about the way we choose to treat each other, on and off set, and that, more than anything else, is what stays with you long after the cameras stop rolling.